What's up then guys, we're back with a brand new video. In today's video I want to talk about how that having the best midfield group does not guarantee you a premiership, because I've seen all this narrative go around from Bulldogs fans on like Facebook, TikTok, about since they added Trelaw, they have Stefan Martin now, that they've automatically just a flag chance, which isn't like always true, because I'm going to go through some stats, but every team in the past like 4 years that have, I couldn't check back from that because there was I couldn't find any stats on the midfield after that, but for the past 4 seasons the number one midfield has never won the Premiership, which is probably a bit scary for Dogs fans, because all this narrative's going around that they've got the Premiership on lock because they added Trelaw, which isn't always like what happens. So I want your opinion on if great midfields do always win the premierships. I know there's been teams in the past, like I think Hawthorn were like the number one midfield when they were in their three-peat, but even during this like time where Richmond have been on top, they've never won the premiership the year that they have had the number one midfield. So I'm going to go through some stats and let's check it out. Alright, so I know it's already red flagged that this is champion data, but this is the people that usually rank the midfields every year. And I'll be honest, even though they usually get the elite players wrong, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Most of the time they get the midfield correct going into the season. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt in this one. Still don't agree with how they rank their elite players, but how they use the stats in this, it's actually pretty good. So in 2020, going into the season, Brisbane Lions had the number one midfield in the comp. We know they actually ended up making the prelim final, so that's a really good effort for having the number one midfield. But if we look at the eventual premiers, they ended up having the 7th ranked midfield in the comp, the Richmond Tigers, which kind of shows that you kind of need a full team to be able to go the distance, because we know how good their backline is. How good their forward line is with Lynch and Rewalt and Shai Bolton and all that stuff. Even though Shai Bolton does go through a midfield. So then, this is just a one-off year. Maybe it's different. So let's check 2019. In 2019, the number one ranked midfield going into the season was the Western Bulldogs, which is kind of common now because now the Western Bulldogs are the number one midfield again going into 2020. We look here, Richmond are 4th, so they're around the mark, but you don't need to be the very best midfield to be a premiership contender. We look at the teams that did rank in here. Geelong, I think they made it to the prelim final. West Coast made it to, I'm not sure where they made it, and Western Bulldogs were knocked out in the first round. So Richmond, clear best out of all these names, were ranked in the top 4. So this is just a couple of years. Let's check 2018. Alright, so this is the one that is absolutely crazy. In 2018, West Coast Eagles had the 15th ranked midfield in the AFL, and they ended up winning the Premiership, which is absolutely ridiculous. This is the one that I saw and I'm like, well, it just proves that you don't need it, because we all know that midfield group that they were running was such a weird midfield group. Like, their starting on ballers for the day, I think, was Luke Shuey, Elliot Yeo, and Mark Hutchings, which Elliot Yeo and Luke Shuey, obviously elite midfielders, but you have like people like Mark Hutchings, which is, I don't think even gets a game anymore. Then they had on the wings, they had Redden, that's an alright midfielder, wouldn't even put him up past average. Chris Marston was good for that year, but ended up getting delisted next year. Then they had Dom Sheed, which everyone knows Dom Sheed absolutely showed out in that grand final. But before that point, he was a just above average as a midfielder. So this shows that they just pulled it all together and they had such an elite defense and it's such elite forward line. So you need both components. You don't just need an elite midfield. Now this is an absolute ridiculous one again, because in 2017, GWS obviously they had a stacked midfield. Everyone knows this. But Richmond ended up winning the flag that year, had a 15th ranked midfield. This is 2018 all over again. So even though we know that Dustin Martin came out and had an absolute great year, but they had like players like McIntosh, which is an alright player, but you wouldn't put it absolutely elite. They had Sean Grigg that ended up playing a second ruck. Like, they had all these, you would say average midfielders, like, even though they end up being great role players, but you wouldn't, I don't want like a non-contending team that would be definitely average. So to be able to pull it off is absolutely ridiculous, and that's because like there's a common thing here, you need forward line and a defense to be a great team. So for this video, I'll just do the 2016 round off to kind of just get some stats behind this. So entering 2016, coming off the three-peat, Hawthorn did have the #1 ranked midfield, but the Bulldogs are the 10th ranked in midfield in the comp, and they ended up winning the flag. So far, I think there's only been 2 teams that have actually, or maybe 1 team that have ranked in the top 4, they're not winning the flag this year, which is pretty crazy to think about in this. So this just might scare some Dog fans about how getting Treloar might not like fully go all the way, because they're currently the #1 ranked midfield in the AFL, and there's only been 1 team that's ever ranked in the top 4 for the past 4 years that have ended up winning the flag. So now, since this is kind of based on the #1 ranked midfield in 2020, the Western Bulldogs, I thought I'd talk about how I predict they will go as a midfield group, and if they could break the chain of being actually a successful midfield group, they could win the flag. Now, first off, I'm looking at their midfield right now, and they've got Stephen Martin, English, Bont, McRae, Treloar, Dunkley, Smith, Libba, and Hunter. Now, if we look at their ruck department, they do have 2 ruckmen, and they kind of go in the same direction as what Paddy Ryder mentored Rowan Marshall last year. And even though I feel like the only reason that actually worked with them too is because Rowan Marshall, #1, was drafted as a forward and was trying to develop as a #1 ruckman. After he had a breakout season 2019 being a ruckman, and he kicked I think he kicked like 13 goals this year, which in a shortened quarters is actually very, very good. That's definitely above average. And then Paddy Ryder kicked 11 goals, so together they ended up kicking like 24 goals. My maths could have been off then, I don't even know, but so they can just say, well, they kicked 24 goals together last year, and that's because they both can have the ability to play forward. Now we look at Martin and English. English is known to be a horrific kick in front of goal, which is really unfortunate to his game as building a ruckman. Even though he's very, very good around the ground, he's going to have to play forward a lot next year if they're going to play it the same way they did, or the Saints did last year. And Martin was originally a fullback and developed into a ruckman, so I don't see how him pushing forward, I don't think he's that great of a goal kicker. I don't have the stats up in front of me, but just off like eyes view, he's not a great goal kicker. I don't think he's kicked too many goals in his AFL career. So that's the ruck department. I feel like that's a bit iffy. I don't know if they'll be able to play him together, but people did say this about Rowan Marshall and Paddy Ryder last year. Next up, we got like the Bont, the Bont is, I think, in this midfield is probably one of 2 of the Bulldogs midfielders that can actually push forward. It's like Bont and Dunkley are the only that have the ability to push forward and kick a goal. Most of the other midfielders are very ball, like they all kind of play the same style. And I feel like the Bont and Dunkley might not have played too much time in the midfield next year, which will annoy Dunkley again. And when the Bont's hands down probably their best midfielder, so not be able to have him in the guts as often, I reckon will hurt him more than it's against him. Because even though he's pretty good when he goes forward, I feel like you just want him as the most dangerous position. I don't think he'll be able to do that next year. Alright, so now we have a look at the other like teams. So they have like McRae, Treloar, Smith, Libba, and Hunter. Now that team, there's 2 elite kicks, which is Hunter. McRae, I wouldn't call him actually a elite kick. I'd probably say above average in that department. But they're gonna have to play more of a wing role. And the problem with this team is, since they have so many midfielders, obviously they can't all play in the exact same team. So you need them to be spread out between the back line, the wing, and the forward line, even though in any other team they'll probably be full on like in the guts midfielders. So I predicted obviously Hunter and McRae will probably be on the wing, even though McRae's had such a good season in the guts. And then you got Smith and Treloar, which are breakaway speed, run and carry midfielders, which I'll probably use in the guts. And then you got Liberatore, which he doesn't really too much parts to his game. He does have the ability at times to push forward. I know he did in that elimination final against the Saints and kicked a late crucial goal. But you wouldn't trust him, and you wouldn't trust him by foot. He's more of a handball machine. And the thing that really annoys me with this midfield, how they've constructed it, is since they can't all play multiple positions, it's got to be I think, hinder their team, because their forward line, even though they got Ugelhagen back, they've got Ugelhagen, they got Josh Bruce. He's had a poor season. They need him to step up. Then they got Aaron Norton, who just can barely stay healthy. But like their forward line, I don't think's good enough to be able to make up with the forward line that they have. I don't think's good enough to be able to take them to a flag, because you need people that can be able to kick goals. Unless Aaron Norton, which people have predicted for the past 2 seasons, he could push up and win a Coleman. But if he does that, they'll absolutely break apart this team and be absolutely lethal in them heading for a premiership. And then their backline is not too great. Like in the key defender department, they were running Ryan Gardner all last year, which is not a great fullback, to be honest. Alex Keith had a down year after returning. After like getting traded to the Bulldogs, he was meant to be their missing part to their backline. Did not really work out. They got some good intercept defenders. Like they got Caleb Daniel, but he doesn't actually play defense. Hayden Crozier gets swung back there because he can't play forward. Because they have already had other people that need to push forward. They got Easton Wood, that is probably their best halfback defender. Jason Johannesson doesn't play defense either. So their defense is really hindered, and it'll be very easy to score goals on them last year unless they somehow just get some magic out of nowhere. With Bailey Williams coming back to the team, that was really good to see, because he had a breakout year and that was kind of the defender they were missing. But this is all my opinions, so I want to see what your guys' thoughts are in the comments down below. It's only my opinion, and I want to see, does a good midfield always, can a good midfield win a premiership just off being a good midfield? Because I don't think the Dogs fully have the other position of the ground fully thought out to actually go full on and win a premiership in 2021. So thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to drop a like and a subscribe, because we're on the road to 400 subscribers.